Hey guys, today we need to test the fuel pump on our 986 Boxster to see if it's able to produce enough flow. Remember last time we tested the fuel pressure at the rail and it was about half of what it needed to be. So we need to find out if that fuel pump is actually working correctly and putting out enough fuel, and see if it's the fuel pump, is it a fuel filter, is it a fuel regulator. So let's go and get underneath the car and we're gonna pull the fuel filter line that goes into it. We're gonna put that into a bucket. We're gonna activate the fuel pump for 30 seconds and see how much fuel comes out. It should be 850 cc's or roughly 3.5 cups of gas that it pumps out in 30 seconds. So let's get underneath the car and let's pull some stuff off. Let's get to testing. Okay guys, so we're underneath the Boxster. We've removed the plastic panel that covers the fuel filter. And the fuel filter is up behind your coolant pipes. See if I can't get in there and show you. There she is right there, with that brown ground wire coming out of it and that fuel hose on one end. And then right there is the connection to the fuel tank. So what we're gonna do is we wanna pop that fuel hose off and we'll connect a rubber hose to it, and then we'll drop it into a bucket to see how much fuel will pop out in 30 seconds. So let's do that real quick here. Reach up. Now careful, some gas may come out. Next, I'm gonna take this, I've got about 2.5 feet of fuel hose. I'm just going to stick it onto this. Okay, now it's on. So next I have an old pickle jar, and I measured out 850 cc's or roughly 3.5 cups and made a line all the way around it. So that way we can tell. Take the top of the hose, stick it inside. Okay, so we are ready to go up top and check on getting our fuel pump relay undone and a jumper wire put in. So once again, we just pulled from the fuel supply, which should go into the fuel filter, but we're gonna run it into our catch container that is measured off. All right, let's go. So guys, this is what your fuel pump relay looks like. 2097, or maybe that's 2000. All right, so what we're gonna do is we're gonna jumper these two on the relay box underneath the driver's feet there. And of course, if you're my friends over and across the pond, you know, well, you know. All right, so let's do this. All right, so you can kind of see where that blue wire is right there. And that is just a simple little jumper. It's not plugged in at the moment, because once you plug it in, fuel will start moving. So what we're gonna do is we're just gonna pop the other end into the top slot, which will activate the fuel pump, and then we can test it. We'll count out 30 seconds and see what happens. Okay, here we go. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, Well, fuel pump is producing exactly how much fuel it should be producing in 30 seconds of on time. So we either have a bad fuel filter or a bad fuel pump relay. So here's our two fuel pump relays. This one here is our original. See how it's pink? That's how you can tell from Porsche. And this is going to be our replacement. Now, these are like 10 bucks. And instead of testing this one, you can test them. You can apply, I think it's power to those two, and then connect a ohm meter across these two, or continuity meter, to see if they connect. And that will tell you if it's producing or not. But for as cheap as these are, I bought two. One I'm going to replace now, and then the other one I'm going to keep in the trunk in case if anything would happen on the road or away from home, I would have a spare fuel pump relay. So let's pop this in and fire the car up and see if there's a difference. Okay, so we know that it's producing before the filter 850 cc's or 3.5 cups of fuel. But what about on the return line going back to the motor? So it's ran through the fuel filter, it's gone through the fuel pressure regulator, through the injectors, and whatever didn't get used is going back to the tank. Let's test it there. I just looked up in the Bentley manual, and it says to test it there as well. It should also be producing 850 cc's at the return line as well. So let me show you where that's on the car, and we'll run that test one more time and see what we get there. Let's go look. So underneath the Boxster, there's our engine. There's two return lines. This one here is for the vent. This is the actual return one back to the fuel tank. So we're gonna pop this line off, put our rubber tube on there, into our bucket again, and we'll run that same test and see what happens. So let me disconnect that, hook that hose up, and we'll see what happens. Well, unfortunately, you cannot get a rubber hose on that side of the attachment. So what I've done, I've taken our container with our marked line, and I just elevated it up to where it will catch. So when we engage that fuel pump with our jumper wire again in the fuse panel, relay panel, it will fill up in 30 seconds. Let's go see how much fuel we get in 30 seconds. What the hell? We have no volume, no anything coming out of that return line back to the tank. That's some crazy shit right there. So I'm gonna go back under the car, and now I wanna test the fuel coming out of the filter. Possibly the filter is clogging stuff up. I know it's a new filter, we replaced it about a month or so ago, but remember, all this kind of started happening when we changed that fuel filter. So let's go underneath the car, let's test at the outlet of the fuel pump or the fuel filter and see what the level is there, since we have nothing at the return line. So we'll get underneath there, let's test that, and we'll go from there. Well, we tested the fuel before the filter, and that was good. We tested the fuel after the filter, that was good. But then we tested the return line and no fuel whatsoever. So I'm starting to think we have a fuel pressure regulator that's going out. even though we tested it in that last video, I'll put a link up here if you haven't watched that yet, but still it'll run, but when you give it any kind of juice, or any kind of gas I should say, still won't run right, and it's still getting like half of what it should at the rails for fuel pressure. What do you think could be the issue here? Would you make a comment below if you have an answer, an idea, or suggestion? I'm going to try anything at this point to get the old Boxster running. Thanks guys, we'll talk to you soon.